Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us live for another session of Discover Moldova, a program organized by America House Chisinau in partnership with the National Inbound Tourism Association of Moldova. Today we will discuss about Chisinau, the capital of the Republic of Moldova, its historical landmarks, treasures, festivals, and much more. Our guest speaker is none other than Tatiana Lupascu, accredited national tour guide.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, dear Tatiana. I'm looking forward to discovering new things about Chisinau. Even if Chisinau is the city where I have been born and raised, I'm sure I can find new things I can go to and enjoy. And before starting, dear audience, please be aware that you can communicate with us and ask questions through the comments section. Mrs. Lupascu, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello again, everyone. So, as it was mentioned, my name is Tatiana. I'm a tour guide, and even if I've not born in Chisinau, I love the city very much because actually it's the city where I spend the most my time, except the moments when I'm out of the city with my guests. So let's start the tour. A virtual one or an online tour, but I hope that you'll have this possibility to visit it live as well. So now we are starting to feel the city, to see the city and its historical actually part. And well, you maybe know or maybe not that the city is located on 7 hills, actually as the city of Rome, for example. And it's in the vicinity of River Big. We have also a river in the middle of the city, as in Paris or in Rome or in any other city in the world. And it was actually the place was inhabited from the Paleolithical times. Actually, archaeological remains belong to Dacian period, 4th, 1st century before Christ, or Mureș Cerneahov, which is 3rd, 4th century. But actually, the history of Chisinau with the document, with the official paper, let's say, starts only on 1436. This is the year. And actually, the date on that document is 17th of July. So actually, we were just celebrated a few days ago the day of birth of our city. Actually, it's a document where is mentioned the toponymic Chisinau as a settlement. It actually was a document of buying new property or selling new property, depending on which side you are. Where it was mentioned the areas and the delimitation of the territories that people were selling. So you see, a business can be approved a document for the future generation that this place existed. Well, actually, the time passes. As I mentioned, see here you have also actually the document, how it looked back at that times. But the history continues, so continues with the next century, where actually Chisinau became a monastery estate in the period of reign of Vasile Lupu, the Lord of Moldavian in that time. And it was actually all the territory of Chisinau was in the possession of the monastery of Saint Friday from Iași, town from Romania nowadays, because actually that was popular in that period. That monasteries had a lot of territories, even though some of them might be far. But anyway, they have these possessions. In 1812, Chisinau became the center of Bessarabia as a gubernia of Russian Empire. That happened because of the following steps of Russian-Turkish War from that period, and the territory between Prut and Nistru became attached to the Russian Empire, and the center of this was Chisinau. And exactly from that period, Chisinau becomes to develop more and more and to become an administrative center, a cultural center, economical one, and so on and so on. Because of course, when you have a center of a region, like a capital of the region, of course, you will invest in that area so that it will become to develop. So that's why a lot of administrative buildings were built in that period. And by the way, even the Cathedral of Chisinau that we are having today is built in that period of time. So in 3036, I mean in the 19th century. And in that period, actually, the city grew from the river Big to the street Stefan the Great, or Stefan cel Mare, we are saying in Romania, which actually nowadays Stefan the Great is the main street of the capital. Everybody knows, every tourist knows the street. So if you come from the airport, you certainly will arrive in the city center on this street. Well, time passes by and go on, and we are having different periods of time. But here actually you can see in the pictures different images from different periods of time. So actually where you can see on the right hand side, it's like a rock. It's written locul de întemeierea orașului Chisinau. So that means the place where Chisinau started to come to life. And on the left-hand side, also on the back, on the down part of the computer, you can see, or tablet, whatever you're looking on, you can see how that place looked in some centuries ago, because actually here was the river, and close to the river were sources of water where people came and take them at home for their family, for their relatives, and for their life in general. On the top, you already see buildings that were built in the 19th century. So something like that looked Chisinau in the past. Only this rock remains us about that period of time. Continuing with the time, we're arriving in more recent period, but still we remember that many of our buildings have the trace of the 19th century. Anyway, if you are in Chisinau and you want to see how the past time and how the history remained here, you can go to the museums. One of the main important museums that you'll see the history of Chisinau, but also the history of Moldova, is the National Museum of History, that actually covers a period of time from the ancient times till past century, and had an enormous collection of pieces, of historical pieces that represent our culture and our history. So you can see it on the left top hand side. The National Museum of History. In the middle, on the right-hand side, you can see the image of a tower. Actually, initially it was a water tower. Well, we know it as a water tower, and the people from Chisinau will say that this is the water tower. That actually now is the Museum of City of Chisinau. So if you want to see specifically historical moments or objects or pictures from Chisinau, you have to go there. What is interesting is that the architect of this building was Alexandru Bernardati, and by the way, he is a well-known architect in our area for our city, because many of the buildings from the 19th century have the signature of Alexandru Bernardati, which is supposed that has Italian origins, but he studied in the Russian Empire, became architect, and actually his father was as well an architect, so generation of architects in this area. Coming back to the water tower, it was built in 1860, and actually it was finished 20 years afterward. Nowadays it has 4 permanent exhibitions, so each floor, as you see on the building, you can visit. An interesting part is that on the top you can exit outside on the terrace, and you have the view of the city as well of the city center, because actually the water tower is located in one of the 7 hills, and from there you have a look also through the direction of city center. On the lower part, you can see the National Art Museum of Moldova. It was founded more recently, let's say, in 1939, by the sculptor as well, Alexandru Plămădeală, and a French painter, Auguste Belair, a professor of school art, fine arts from Chisinau, and this senator of beautiful things in the history and in the time remains till nowadays and can be visited. So the museum is opened all year round. You can visit it. It has permanent collection of art, but also some new exhibitions that are showing there from time to time. Well, of course, these are not the only museums that are in Chisinau. We have many other more, depending on your interests. You can go to the Natural Historical Museum, the Natural History Museum of Moldovan State University, that is actually recently from 1952. But interesting thing is that it was created at the initiative of the students and teachers and at the biology faculty. And the most important thing is that all the collection of this museum of different animals or different any other species were made from, let's say, an animal that was found dead. So no pieces of this museum was killed specially to be brought to the museum. So it's kind of part to be appreciated, I would say. Another interesting museum, and more special probably, is the Human Anatomy Museum of Nicolae Testemitianu University. It's actually the University of Medicine. So if you are passionate about anatomy, or you think to go to this university further, want to study, for you it might be interesting, this kind of museum. Another one is the Museum of Electric Transport in Chisinau. By the way, Chisinau has an electric transport from the 19th century, and you can visit how the transport was back in time. Interesting fact is that at the beginning, the museum was opened in a trolleybus. Actually, the museum used an old trolleybus that before functioned, and 10 years the museum was opened in a trolleybus. Later on, all the exhibition was moved in a building, and the trolleybus is in the backyard, of course. Another interesting one might be for you the Village Museum, because it's actually a place where you can find revelation and tranquility. It's actually when you are going out from the city to the direction to the airport, or if you are coming from airport to the direction of the city, you can make a stop to this museum. It's actually beautiful green territory with a wooden church, which, by the way, is also a part of touristical route wooden churches from Moldova and Romania as well. So if you are passionate how the churches were made earlier from wood, this is one place you can go and see. Another interesting museum is the Museum Alexander Pushkin. House Museum is actually one of the houses where he lived when he was in exile in Chisinau, and it's near the city center, because actually you can have a walk to this museum. You will see different exhibitions, different elements from that period of time of Alexander Pushkin, but as well you can have an imagine of the houses of that period, considering that this house was a house of a noble, not a simple person from Chisinau. Of course, there are more other museums, but for that you can visit, for example, the page visit.chisinau.md. You'll have all this information at the end, but just to have the idea that it's available. So if you're passionate not about museum, but you like to have a walk in the city and see interesting things around and maybe some monuments, then here I'm presenting a few only of them. The most important probably is the monument Stefan the Great, which is in the city center near the Central Park. It's actually a monument that travels because this monument was inaugurated in 1928, but traveled twice in Romania. And then was bring back in Chisinau, and now is at the main entrance of the Central Park. The sculptor was a local sculptor, Alexandru Plămădeală. Later on, we're looking on the left-hand side of the computer. So in the middle left-hand side, you can see one statue, but actually I'm talking here about the Alley of Classics, which you can visit in the public garden. Actually, the public garden, the main garden, which I was talking about, where the entrance is with the monument Stefan the Great. Another important monument is Eternity Memorial Complex, a complex that was inaugurated in 1975 with the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the Soviet victory in the Second World War. Probably in many cities or countries you'll see a moment dedicated to the eternity and with the hope of peace for the future generations. Passing on the right-hand side, on the top, you can see the statue of Iona Doinaldă Teodorovici, named also Requirement of Love for Love or Two Twin Hearts, because actually it's a couple that was dedicated to the culture of the country, to the independence of the country, and as well a couple which loved each other very much. So this statue you can see at the entrance of the Park Valea Morilor, which is also a big and beautiful place to visit, but we'll talk later on about this. Another interesting monument is the Capitolin Wolf in Chisinau, which is actually located in front of Historical Museum. The interesting part is that initially it was the statue was replicating the famous Roman statue, and the author, Ettore Ferrari, was actually preparing this statue for our municipality from the municipality of Rome, Italy in 1922. Unfortunately, in the Second World War, it was melted, but later on it was created a replica of that famous Roman statue. So history connects us with the Roman Empire as well, but this is another talk. Something interesting might be the Moldovan Little Prince statue. It's actually inspired from the work Little Prince from Alexandru Saint-Exupéry. It's actually the smallest monument in the Republic of Moldova, only 11 centimeters high. That is also located in the Park Valea Morilor, and it's actually a challenge to find it, because imagine only 11 centimeter is really a test to find it, but you can have a try. Well, these are not the only places, of course, that you can visit in Chisinau. We have other more that we'll see. So, statues, and not only, you can find on Pedestrian Street. The main attraction, let's say, is the statue of flowers on the Pedestrian Street Eugen Doga. As well, the history is the same. He is waiting with a bouquet of flower, and the lady is running out of time, of course, because we are all the time busy and we are all the time late. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes anyway. It's a place where you can make nice pictures as well. But also on this street you can have a good cup of coffee or eat something sweet, for example at Crème de la Crème Cafe, or there is also Bonjour Cafe, the beginning of the pedestrian street, with a really nice atmosphere. But as well, if you want to buy some souvenirs, here on the pedestrian street, there is a local market with different objects handmade by local artisans. So it's a place where for sure you'll find something interesting for you or for your relatives when you're going back home, or maybe for a present. So I was talking about different parks from Chisinau earlier, and of course, one of the main important is the Stefan the Great Central Park with the statue. Remember, I told you earlier, and the history of this park laid out from the 1818. Actually, is the oldest park from Chisinau. It was built in the period when Chisinau became the capital of Russian Empire, Gubernia. And it was actually quite the beginning of constructing the city center that we know today. Another interesting park is the Valley of Mills, or Valea Morilor, or how we are saying it in Romania. It has 114 hectares. It's with a lake, with the big areas for walk, for cycling, having a tea or an ice cream. Why not? Because it's a summer. Another park is the Valley of Roses, where you can see beautiful roses, of course, as well, which is in the Buiucan district. Or Dendrarium Park, if you like small parks dedicated with different elements of the nature. Another park will be La Izvor, which means Izvor is a source of water that we have. And actually the name initially carry out the name of Friendship Park between peoples. Probably any park can be named the Friendship Park because there you can go usually with friends. Another interesting and important park will be the Cathedral Park, the Cathedral Square, actually in the city center, where is located also the main cathedral with the tower bell, all built at the beginning, at the first part of the 19th century. And actually, all that part was built from the beginning, because the historical city, talking about 15th century of the document that we discussed earlier, it was on the lower part of the hill near the river Big. Later on, in the 19th century, all the administrative buildings for the Chisinau as a capital of Gubernia were built on the upper part of this hill, so that now we are having a city center, but actually it's a city center from the 19th century, not the historical center of Chisinau that was, for example, in 15th or 16th century. So different places, different stories. Well, of course, except parks and monuments and statues, you can visit different historical buildings. One of the main important can be considered the City Hall, Chisinau City Hall. It was built again in the 19th century, and in front of it you can see the main street Stefan the Great. It's actually the heart of the city center, let's say so, because here you have the central post, the city hall, the government building, presidential building. Nearby is also the cathedral square with the cathedral park, and so on and so on. Interesting fact is that the building was ended in the built at the end of the 19th century. At that time, the mayor was Carl Smith, which, by the way, was the mayor with 26 years. So imagine he had enough time to do a lot of good things for the city. And it was initially constructed as a new headquarters of Duma of the city. nowadays a town hall. Initially here was a fire station, and the design was made with the city architect Mitrofan Ladi, and also participated the famous architect Alexandru Bernardati, which I told you about a little earlier. So actually the construction was finally completed already at the beginning at the 20th century. Unfortunately, a big part of the building was destroyed in the Second World War, and then it was remade on the basis of old pictures, drawings, and so on. But anyway, you can see the same style, the same elements that was at the beginning in the 19th century. Nearby of the city hall, it was built an organ hall, which actually nowadays is an organ hall, but initially was designed as a city bank. Again, at the 19th century, you remember I was talking to you that a city center is actually a center from the 19th century. And this bank was initially a city bank, then it was transformed in a national bank, so it hosted different financial institutions. And then later, in the end of the 20th century, it was transformed and in the organ hall, which is to nowadays as well. And the organ itself is installed in the hall. It's made in Czechs by a Czech company. In that time, it was considered with a company with a strong tradition in creating organs, so a well-known company in that time. So on the left-hand side, you can see the building nowadays. On the right-hand side, you can see how the building looked back in the 20th century at the beginning of the activity as a city bank. Other interesting places we'll continue to see. One interesting form and a building itself has the Circus. It was built actually at the end of the 20th century, but it was considered to be, for a long period of time, the fourth place in the world and the first place in the URSS countries in terms of convenience and capacity, because it had a lot of seats for spectators and also for members of the bands, for the artists, for the place itself. Nowadays, it's workable only a small part of it, but there are plans to be reconstructed and put it in function at his biggest capacity. An interesting place is Bogdan Petricecu HD. It's actually a municipal library that you can see on the right-hand side on the down part. The fact of a library itself might be interesting for the ones who like to read books, but not only, because actually this building was built at the beginning of first part of the 19th century. It was initially a gymnasium at Chisinau, then a theological seminar. Then the interesting thing is that in 1864 it became to be a Swiss hotel, actually a famous hotel, because it was also constructed, opened by a Swiss citizen, which rented the place, transformed it in the hotel, and many personalities from that period of time came here, remained in this hotel. For example, one of the known Romanian personality from that time was Nicolae Iorga, which stayed in this hotel, and he wrote that at the hotel worked different people from different nationalities, Polish people, people from Moldova, Russian speaking, as well as any other kinds of people from different parts of the world. But the most interesting part, he said that the quality of service of this hotel is the best one. Even in Yash, city he loved very much, he didn't find a hotel with this kind of service. Unfortunately, it was the function of hotel stopped in the Second World War. A big part of the building was destroyed. And another interesting story about this is the fact that it was rebuilt after the bombings. And the project of restoration of the building was elaborated by the architect Rosa Spirer, which actually was the first architect woman for that period of time. She studied at the University Rousseau from Belz, city from north of Moldova, and she became the architect responsible for the restoration of this building. Under the leadership of the academician Shushev, which, by the way, was involved in the building of the mausoleum of Lenin from Moscow. So big personalities are having roots from Chisinau, from Moldova. We talked about some of the buildings, but I will go back a little bit in the period when city was born with the first documents, because actually here we are talking about the church Mother of God, or in Romania everybody is saying Maserati Church. It's actually one of the oldest buildings that the city has, from the middle of 18th century. And the idea is that if you look at the left-hand side, you'll see the building how it looks, at the church how it looks nowadays. But on the right-hand side, you can see a building that was here built in the beginning. But at the lower part of the building, you can see like the lower part of the hill. Here, people are coming to take water to bring to their houses, because in that period of time we didn't have the possibility to open in the room the water and to take as much as we want, or we had to go in this kind of sources of water. So actually here in this place also started the history of old part of Chisinau. So the area where is the river Big. The church nowadays is given to the Russian old rite people that are celebrating all the Orthodox, not like Orthodox, but they are in the same direction, but old rite. In Moldova, we are calling them Lipoveni. So because of that, the cathedral cannot be visited inside. If you want to take a look, you can just take a look around on the yard, but you cannot go inside. But at least you can visit and see how it was the church built in the 18th century. Well, another interesting church, and also again the second oldest church and building that we have, is Saint Constantine and Helena. You can see on the top part is in the 1777. Actually, in that period, this church was considered to be in the village of Visterniceni, but nowadays is Râșcani district, which actually is located opposite to the Maserati Church that we just talked a few moments ago. So if you want to see how the buildings were in the 18th century, you have to visit these two places, and also to see the old part of Chisinau. Coming closer to nowadays, but not too close, on the down part of the image, you will see the images from Saint Great Martyr Theodore Teron. It's actually a monastery, the only monastery that we have in the city, because the rest of the monastery that we have in Moldova are outside of the city. So this is the only one from the city. As you can see, built in the 19th century. by two brothers, Theodore and Anastasia Chufli. So that's why many people from Chisinau will know this church, this monastery, as Monastery Chufla. Also, the street that passes in front of this church is named Chufla Street. So if you want to ask somebody how to arrive at this monastery, you can ask how to arrive at Chufla Monastery, and everybody will know what you are talking about. You can see these two pictures. One is the image of the monastery nowadays, and the second is a painting made by a local artist, by the way, Galina Viero, which actually has exhibition of different locations from Chisinau painted at the Museum of Chisinau. So if you are in Chisinau till the middle of August, you can visit the Museum of Chisinau, remember the water tower, and you also will see this collection of paintings there. If we are talking about churches, I couldn't pass by without mentioning you the Church of Great Martyr Pantelimon. It's a church that was founded by two brothers, originally Greek brothers, Ivan and Victor Sinandino, and actually there was sons of the former mayor from that period of time. And the church activates till nowadays, and is also a church that is visited mostly, and all the activities are held there mostly by the Greek community from Chisinau. So if you are originally from Greece, or you just want to visit this place, you can go there for sure. It's open to everybody, so no problem to be visited inside as well. And it's actually located not too far from the city hall, so you can take a walk around. Another cathedral is the Roman Catholic Cathedral Divine Providence, which is as well built in the 19th century, also located in the city center, that is dedicated for the Roman Catholic community in Chisinau, which actually initially was composed exclusively of Polish people at the beginning of the 19th century. Later on, it became for all Catholic community from Chisinau and from Moldova, as well, as it is considered to be the main Catholic cathedral from the country. Of course, this is not the only places that you can visit in Chisinau. There are much more, but we don't have a lot of time for that. But I would recommend as well to make a stop to do a wine tasting, because actually wine tasting is activity, let's say, that you can do in different places in the city, because we have different wine tasting room where you can taste the wine, where you can also talk with the sommelier that will explain you the history of that concrete wine with the flavors of the location, where it's being, and so on. But also you can buy the wine from small producers at the wine tasting places. Of course, shopping. I don't know how are men's, but women's I know for sure that love shopping. And by the way, Chisinau is a good place to do that, even in the city center, because you'll find location like shops with brands from Moldova, made in Moldova. We even have a brand from the heart. It's actually a shop where you can find different things that are designed here, produced here, and made by local. For example, the image here that you see in the middle is a dress produced by a local designer. So for sure you'll find something interesting for you. Well, you cannot pass and leave Chisinau without tasting national food. That won't be a problem to find a place where you will find national food, because usually in the city center there are different places with national foods, and even with international restaurants you'll find as well something national, starting from placinte, sarmale, mămăligă, or anything else that you would like to taste, to eat or to drink. Well, as an entertainment, this of course is not the only thing that you can do. We have a variety of festivals, a variety of activities that are taking place at the museums in different areas of Chisinau and in different periods of time. By the way, last week we had the festival Testalut Chisinau. Of course, you cannot go back in time to participate at this festival, but actually it's a festival dedicated to the date of Chisinau, remember, 17th of July. So you can put in your agenda for the next year and visit Chisinau in that period, because for sure this festival will continue. Usually it takes place a few days, so you'll find a moment to visit. As well, you can come here in August, because at the end of August we usually have different festivals, because at the 27th of August we are celebrating the Independence Days with a lot of activities, festival, concerts, and many other more things. And as well, on 31st of August, when we are celebrating our language, the Romanian language, with also a lot of concert, music, poetry, and so on and so on. For sure, in the winter time, by the way, autumn time, you can come in autumn when we are having the wine festival. The wine day usually is taking place in the first weekend of October. Unfortunately, last year it didn't take place due to COVID situation. Hopefully this year, I hope it will take place, but for sure you can check this in advance and see information about it. So if you are in Chisinau in a weekend, doesn't matter if it's winter or summer or autumn or anything like that, in the city center, in front of the Triumphal Arch, is starting the Trolleybus, the touristical sightseeing Trolleybus. It actually at the moment has 3 languages, Romanian, Russian, and English. You just have to check the time when the language appropriate for you is taking place for the tour. You just hop on and you'll have a tour of an hour around the city center of Chisinau. You'll listen to the story about different locations, about different places. You'll see some of the places that I talked about as well. And you'll have a better idea, and you'll see some of the places from Chisinau. Well, to find out more, you can visit the Moldova Tourism Information Center, which is also located in the main street, Stefan de Great, in the City Hall building. You see the signs, or you can visit the webpage visit.chisinau.md. There you'll find information about festivals, historical information. By the way, you can find there as well audio registered information. Or you can contact me. You'll have my details in the end, and ask me anything about Chisinau or Moldova. But at the moment, if you have something to ask, I'm still here with you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lupascu, for this interesting presentation. I'm sure our audience enjoyed it, and I'd like to thank you everyone for watching it. Now you know how to plan your holiday, to plan your visit to Chisinau, so you can fully enjoy our festivals and find the best places to eat, to enjoy our wines. If you're interested to find more about Moldova and you didn't watch our previous sessions, you can find them on our website page, americahouse.md/discover Moldova, which you can see on our screen. Thank you, everyone. I see we don't have any questions, therefore we will end this session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Lupascu, and have a great evening.
My pleasure waiting you in Chisinau.